And we're back. What a crazy week 2 we've had. Still one or two more games to go. We're filming this on Monday evening, but I think we've got a pretty good feel of where things are at, Bish. But how did your week 2 fantasy go?
Yeah, it's been a good watch. Got back late playing away at Widnes, but got in, had it on the bus on the phone, and got back in and watched the Rams game, which were nice. So yeah, I went into my matchup with Sam. I went to bed before the Dolphins Patriots game. Thinking defeat was on the cards. I had a small lead, but he had Tua and Jalen Waddle to play, and I woke up and I was very surprised to see me hold on by less than 4 points. Hunter Henry touchdown saved me, I think. So
wow,
I'm pretty happy about that. And I seen yours. Well, I seen your score. You've run up a massive score again this week. I see. How's that gone?
Yeah, I'm on fire at the moment. Both my fantasy teams, I think I've averaged a good 135 points in both leagues. So yeah, going well. I've had a good draft year. I'm happy. I went running back heavy. I was loud and proud about it. I went running back heavy because everyone put loads of emphasis on wide receivers. But it's hard to guess who's. There's a couple. Tyreek, guarantee. Obviously, you've got Cup if you were thing that probably be a guarantee. But there's not loads. I don't think guarantees. There's a lot of good wide receivers, but I don't think there's as many good running backs in the league. There's a lot of committees now, so I put emphasis on getting my good running backs nice and early, and thought I'd pick up value at my wide receiver position when it were there. And week 2 in, it's paying off so far.
Nice start. And you had that flex position decision that we put out there. We had a response from Lee on Twitter, who I believe was on holiday listening to us. So thanks for Lee for his comment. I think he said go with Doobs if Watson was out, or if not, Watson. Yeah, I think that's what he said. Is Watson if he was fit. If not, if he wasn't fit, then Doobs.
And I didn't follow it, to be fair. I'll flick on it now. What we can see is I've gone with Michael Thomas. He's still yet to play, so we don't know what's going on yet. But there was a man who's just about to come up here, James Cook, that I think will solve my fantasy issues for the foreseeable future. He looked phenomenal. He's turned into a feature back. He's the one and only. There's obviously Latavius. There's a couple of us there. Latavius, Damian Harris. But it looks like James Cook's the man. And I think in future, he's my flex lockdown, Bish. But I don't know if you disagree, because I still do have Christian Watson, Romeo Dubs. Obviously, Michael Thomas is currently in the flex position now. What do you think?
Yeah, well, he certainly got plenty of work, didn't he, James Cook? I think he had over 100 yards. He just got stifled, as we mentioned, for touchdowns. Looks like Latavius Murray seems to be getting the majority of the carries on the goal line. But yeah, I think you've got a lot of options there, haven't you? So I think Christian Watson would be.
Did that pop up on the screen there?
I don't think it did. No.
Oh, I'll go through it again. I apologise.
Right,
there we go.
Yeah,
I'll go through it again just to show the viewers. So obviously Michael Thomas yet to play, but we've got James Cook there on 17.9 points. We've got Romeo Dubs, who had a bit of a shocking week, and then we also have Christian Watson there on the who didn't play through injury. So Jackson Smith and Jeeba as well, who was playing better and better each week. But yeah, I've got plenty of options. Apologise for not loading it up there, but we're back on. But as I was saying, yeah, it looks like with them numbers, 17 carries, 123 yards, and he gets the receptions as well. And then obviously, as we know in PPR, that's just as important as anything else in fantasy football, and he's getting that. So I'm happy, probably having James Cook as my flex position going onwards. But again, don't know if you disagree, Bish.
No, well, I'm a big Michael Thomas believer after last week, so we'll see what he does tonight, and hopefully you can throw another option into that flex position for you. So, but yeah, I think you can't go wrong with James Cook as we saw from the game. His workload is definitely there, so you've got a good floor there. If you can possibly jag a few touchdowns, that'd be nice as well for you. But you can't really argue with over 15 points there.
Like I said, I don't think you can. And then receptions in the running back position are just so key for me. I look at I think I've drafted Jahmyr Gibbs in a previous draft. I've gone Saquon Barkley, who's a very good receiving running back. I love my receiving running backs. I like them anyway. Obviously, Austin Eckler, probably the premium receiving running back in the league, and I love my running backs that can also catch and a bit more explosion about them than just the Derrick Henry type. Probably my bias towards fun play, fun, exciting football. But yeah, that's the way I go, and I'm happy. I've got James Cook now.
Nice.
But yeah, looking through the week here, Bish. We'll flick it on. We'll have a look at the matchups. I think a lot of decisive wins is the theme for this week's fantasy football, Bish. I don't know what you think, but let's have a look at Bish's team.
Yeah, I think mine was the closest game. I think there were a lot of one-sided games. This one, as I said, it were pretty close. He had Tua and Waddle in the late night game, and I had Hunter Henry who I picked up. And he's gone in and I think he's won me the game, really. Hunter Henry there with that touchdown. Great defense from the Patriots, sort of kept the Dolphins quiet, but the Dolphins sort of run the ball. They used that side of their offense this week. Raheem Mostert racked up the points with 2 touchdowns as well. So yeah, it's a good start to the season. 2-0, especially after losing Austin Eckler. Obviously, he was not available for this week. I've picked up another injury though in David Montgomery, so we'll see how that one goes. But Kenneth Walker had a real good game for me. Again, similar to James Cook, 17.9 points there with 2 touchdowns he came in with. So yeah, I'm pretty happy with that. We'll see what's out there to pick up on the waiver wire. Probably my only disappointment was the Jaguars. I misread that one. I thought they'd score a few more points against the Chiefs. Lawrence didn't get a touchdown, lost a fumble as well. So, and yeah, Ridley had although he had plenty of targets, he had eight targets, only 2 receptions. So that hurt me a little bit. Josh Jacobs -2 yards rushing. Obviously, that's not ideal. So luckily that he brought that back with 50 yards passing. But I'm a bit surprised at that. But we'll take it as a blip, and hopefully he can bounce back next week.
Yeah, I think I think your Kenneth Walker pick as a flex play is probably one of the best players you can have in your flex spot. Bish, I think he's cemented again, kind of like I said with James Cook, but even more because he's the red zone back. He's that 3rd down back who they're looking for to get the touchdowns, and I think you've got one of the top running backs in the league in your flex position. So I think you should be you should be on for a pretty good fantasy season, Bish, if that carries on how it's going.
Yeah, and although I picked up Puka Nacua on waivers, I've actually put him on my bench this week. I just overestimated the 49ers. I thought they'd really clamp down after what they did in the opening week at the Steelers, but the Rams' offense looks really good. Stafford's playing really well, so he's definitely in for next week. So that throws another option in there, and probably comes at a good time with Montgomery out. If he's out injured, I can slot Kenneth Walker into that starting running back and bring Puka straight into that flex. So yeah, good options for next week.
Yeah, and obviously, like you said, you've got Deontay Johnson still to come. So you've got you've got a pretty strong side. I'm excited to play you. I've not seen actually when we're playing yet, but I think that will be the big week in the punts history. Joe v Bish round 1 in the fit. We've both got very strong sides, and I'm excited to go at it. But yeah, shall we get into it, Bish? We've got we'll start off with our weekly segments now. Obviously, last week, if you watched us, we're doing these weekly segments. We've done our research again, and we're coming at it strong as ever with the injury report. We pick out a couple of players that mean something towards, or people we want to highlight that are injured, and what it means in terms of your fantasy team and the fantasy landscape in the whole. I'll go first, Bish. He's a player I have in both my leagues. So he's a player I watch non-stop. As soon as his name's on Red Zone, I'm looking straight up. It's Saquon Barkley. He's picked up a leg injury. There's not loads of information out yet on how bad it is. I think they think it'll be maybe a week or two. So it makes me nervous, Bish. He's had an okay start to the season. But as a fantasy owner, I'm now looking for my running backs in my flex or my bench. Obviously, as we've seen, luckily I've got James Cook there, but then that means a player might have to slip into my flex position, maybe Christian Watson. But it's a big player because he's a first rounder, and you don't want your first rounders to be injured, do you? They're the ones who you're relying to get you big points every week consistently. So that's going to make easy wins tight losses or tight wins, and I'll be more on the edge of my seat with Saquon going. Next, obviously, you can look at what other options they've got in the wide receiver room. They've got a couple of lads. They've got Jalen Hyatt, Hodgkins. Maybe they'll get a couple more targets now because obviously Saquon gets so many targets as a receiver as well as just a plain runner. And then you can look at who's next in the running back room. I think they might sign or trade for someone, Bish, but I don't know if you've got any thoughts on that. I don't know how much research you would have looked into it.
Yeah, I'm not sure. Like you said, it's the way he got carried off. I think he slammed his helmet down on the sideline, so that makes me think it's obviously frustration on his part, but one of those high ankle sprains, possibly. Maybe a couple of weeks. The problem is as well, it's a short turnaround for them. They play Thursday night, so it's very touch and go whether he'll obviously be included Thursday. What they do, I'm thinking they just go with Matt Breida, to be honest. They just stick with what they got. They've got the backup, Matt Breida. I just don't think they're in a position as a team to... If they were trading for someone, I think they'd do that if they were in a position where they were challenging to at least, be a strong team in the playoffs. And I don't think they're quite at that stage with the two performances they've put in. Obviously, an awful performance at home, not at home, but in the win, some questions to be asked in Cardinals, what were deemed as one of the worst teams coming into the season, get a heavy lead, and but full credit to them, they came back in that one. So yeah, Matt Breida's there. I guess it's seeing the severity of the injury. Like you said, they're still running tests, so I guess we'll have to sit and wait and hope for some good news for him.
Yeah, I've watched Matt Breida play throughout the last 3 or 4 years. He's a tough running back. He's an okay receiving back as well, so an okay replacement. But I'm not excited. He's not one of the players where in past, if Dalvin Cook were injured, you would be slightly excited to play and go get Madison from the waiver wire, or you'd already have him in your team in case Dalvin would get injured. There's a couple every year, but I don't know if Matt Breida is that for me. Bish, I don't know if I'm diving to go sign him and get him on my team to replace, and because I know he could be a workhorse back and take all the carry. I'm still not that excited, but I could be wrong, and he might have a massive game, obviously in Saquon's absence, with getting that many touches. But I'm not convinced by his upside, to be honest.
It possibly means as well that you see a bit more running from Daniel Jones. Maybe that's one way of countering it. You see a bit more quarterback work in, him scrambling a bit more. So Yeah, it's one to have a look at, and I guess we'll find out real soon because, like you said, the Thursday night straight up. So we move on
Are
to
you back?
mine.
Yeah, sorry, Bish. I think I froze there. I
No, it
apologise
freeze a
there.
little bit. Yeah, I'm staying on the running backs. I'm gonna go with David Montgomery. He was in my team this week. He's usually a stable running back. He's always good, especially with the Lions play. He sort of took that lead back role, and he's jagging those touchdowns as well, which is always handy. But he got carted off with sort of ice on his knee, so there was a lot of talk of it being a serious knee injury. But reports just before we come on here, I just seen a report saying it's a thigh bruise, which is potentially only a couple of weeks. So yeah, there's nothing too major. Obviously, a couple of weeks still hurts your fantasy team a little, and I guess what most fantasy owners of Jahmyr Gibbs would like to see is him take a more advanced role in this offense. I mean, just changing it to DeAndre Swift, who sort of that same back as Jahmyr Gibbs. What he did on Thursday night, given the lead back role with the Philadelphia Eagles, 175 yards. I think people are hoping that the Lions will sort of let Jahmyr Gibbs loose and we can see what he can do. So it'll be interesting to see which way they go with that. For my point of view in my team, I'm hoping it's just a couple of week injury and I can get him straight back in. So yeah, we'll see how that one goes.
Yeah. Next one, I'm just someone who had a brilliant game at the week. Anthony Richardson. He went off after getting 2 touchdowns himself. Looked brilliant. This is one where he'll probably miss it. He'll probably miss next week with natures of his concussions and stuff like that. I think that they won't want to risk him playing next week, so he'll have a week off. But how good did he look? I think it'd be one you'd be looking to pick up on your season. And I think he'll be playing. I think he'll be playing amazing till the very end. And he's only going to get more and more confidence from his coaches and from the team in the whole to express himself even more and get more control and make that team his throughout, which is already kind of doing, to be fair. So sad one. Hopefully it's not too long term and it don't carry on week. I know in previous years we've seen some head knocks go for weeks on end. We've seen some come back in a couple of days. It's kind of a hit and miss, isn't it, Bish, in terms of head knocks?
Yeah, that's it. And it's just sort of the nature, well, not the nature, but, rookie running backs coming in, we're sort of used to him being great runners. He's a great athlete. And he actually got this concussion he scored a touchdown and got hit as he went into the end zone and his head's hit the floor. So, it's one of those where, it's hard to take away from his game, but you don't want to see your quarterback, the future of your franchise, taking so many hits and sort of that Lamar Jackson where now he's in the pocket and passing a bit more. So yeah, hopefully he's okay. We saw that precautions will be a lot more strict this year. So yeah, if he doesn't make it, I think Gardner Minshew comes in, which is a totally different aspect for the way sort of those two players play. You'll see a lot more in the pocket, throwing the ball rather than running. So maybe not as entertaining team, but I think Gardner Minshew's one of the better backups in the league. So I'm sure they'll still be a productive team.
Yeah, I won't be worried too much for obviously the other players on the. I won't be worried too much. Minshew mania has been real in the past, and I think it still can be real. He's a very exciting quarterback, to be honest. I love watching him play. He's probably too aggressive at times. Probably not. Probably needs to learn to relax and play the safe option. He does go for the wonder ball a bit too much, but that means exciting. It normally translates to good fantasy results as well. But Bishop, who's your final injury report?
My final one is I'm bringing him up again is Joe Burrow. We we spoke about him last week, not moving that much. He seemed to move pretty well, to be fair, but it was just the last possession that they had. He threw the ball and you could see him limping off. Reports afterwards, he said that he's aggravated that calf again. And I think it's just going to be one of those things where it's just going to be lingering for a while. They've not had a great start to the season. They're now 0-2 against 2 divisional opponents as well. So, it's he can't really rest, to be honest. They tried to give him the 4-week rest in the preseason, and it's carried into the season. So that's going to be a tough one for him and them, dealing with that through the season. They started 0-2 last year and managed to come back and obviously a strong team in the playoffs. So hopefully they can do the same this year. But yeah, I guess it's just managing it really. The offensive line out pretty quick anyway. So, but I think it's just his mobility that's going to be the issue. So we'll see how that one goes. I'm pretty sure he's not going to sit. He's going to be out there playing. They're just going to have to adapt how they play, which obviously might have a knock-on effect on your wide receivers and your Higgins and your Jamar Chases. But we'll see how that one unfolds. They've got the Rams this week, so it'll be an interesting one. Aaron Donald chasing after Joe Burrow.
Yeah, I think obviously we've seen Jamar Chase have 2 lackluster weeks. So it's definitely affecting Jamar. T. Higgins had a good week. 2 touchdowns, I think, helped that because he is an end zone threat because he's a massive dude. He's a massive dude. So I think that helps him. But yeah, it's definitely affecting the wide receivers already. It probably gives me more confidence in Joe Mixon that they're going to have to run the ball more. They don't want to try win, but limit Joe Burrow's movement, how many times he can get hit. They don't want to re-aggravate it. When some of the easier matchups come along and they get the wins and hopefully get around the playoffs, they'll want Joe as fit as he can possibly be. So I think that could mean Joe Mixon owners, you might be in for a couple of good weeks till that car feels up.
And that's a good option in our league. Obviously, our league's a half-point PPR as well, so you're getting half points every time Joe Burrow can find that little dump off to Joe Mixon, which he might have to do. Like you said, when the pressure comes, if his mobility is not there, he might just be looking for that safety valve in that running back. So yeah, Joe Mixon's a great shout there.
Next one, Bish. I think we go straight into the fantasy flops. People, this is, again, we're still early in doing these categories, but fantasy flop, quite self-evident. Players who should be doing well or are expected to do well, who flop, which in American terms means you fall over when you shouldn't be, i.e. have a shocker. And my first one's a player who I've drafted in one of my leagues, is Josh Jacobs with only 7.4 fancy. Oh no, I've not. I've stole yours, but I've stole yours.
Yeah, all right.
I wrote it down. No, one of mine. Without, I'll not go too deep into Josh Jacobs because I think Bish is going to cover him. Is AJ Dillon. I apologise. He had a shocker for Green Bay. They missed Aaron Jones. Green Bay. I think he's just not that explosive. AJ Dillon. Watching him play, I'm not. He's a very good. How do I describe this for people who he's a big body, so he's really good at getting 1 or 2 yards. If they need an extra yard to get a new set of downs, I think AJ Dillon's that man. If they're in the red zone and need that touchdown, if they're goal line, he's a good player for that. But I don't think he's explosive enough to carry a full game load. And when that gap's there, he's not breaking through it and going 20, 30 yards like Aaron Jones is. He's just simply not that. And I think that showed in the game. And to be fair to him, I don't think the emergence of the Green Bay's wide receiving attack, Jordan the King Love, whatever nickname we want to chuck to him, has emerged. Obviously, me living in Wisconsin for them couple of years when he got drafted and they didn't know where we're at, and I'm happy for Jordan. There were a lot of doubts against him. How good has he looked? And I don't think that's helped AJ Dillon in much in this game. But I think going forward, it's pretty clear Aaron Jones is the man, and AJ Dillon's going to get them short yardage when they need like 1-2 yards, and it's going to be tougher to get the yardage because they'll put the opposition defense, put all their big men there, and it's getting every inch you can as you're running into each other. I don't know what you think to that, Bish, but yeah, AJ Dillon, yeah, again, very disappointed.
Yeah, I agree with you. I think it's like you said, him and Aaron Jones is that 1-2 punch, isn't it? AJ Dillon is your sort of back when you're winning the game and you're trying to grind out the clock, your goal line back, and Aaron Jones offers that passing ability as well, which AJ Dillon hasn't been used in that role. So yeah, it's very limited. So yeah, I think it showed at the weekend. They missed Aaron Jones, like you said. Jordan Love is spraying the ball around. It just wasn't the game script for AJ Dillon, unfortunately. And that leads me into mine, which is another running back who we've slightly mentioned, is Josh Jacobs. So, and I've gone with Josh Jacobs just because he was in my fantasy team. You know, I had a big expected a lot of things from him this week. Obviously, he's a number one rusher last year, going into this year, but he wanted a new deal. They were threatening to put him on the franchise tag. Eventually, he got his 1 year deal, but so he's not really had a camp, and I think that's affecting him a little bit. You know, he was slow last week. Didn't, well, they got blown out last week, to be fair, so that didn't help him. But this week against Buffalo, where the week before the New York Jets ran for 150 plus. I think Breece Hall had 127 by himself. I was expecting Josh Jacobs to really hit the ground running here, and it just didn't happen. 9 carries for -2 yards. I don't think I've ever seen that. Have you, Joe?
No, not no, yeah, no other words, no.
for a back of his caliber, I don't think I've ever seen that. As we mentioned, he pulled it back with some receiving yards. He had 5 catches off 6 targets for just over 50 yards there, so to pull it back slightly. But yeah, that's it hurt me, to be honest. It hurt my team, but I'm hoping that he'll need a couple of games just to get game fit again, and then I'm hoping he hits the ground running from next week, really. Which I think a player of his caliber, I think he knows it's especially on this 1 year deal, he needs to be finding those yards and unfortunately we've had to wait 2 weeks for it, but hopefully week 3 he kicks in and gets that big 100-yard game.
I think he will. I think, to be honest, watching it, the Buffalo Bills' run defense was just phenomenal, wasn't it? I don't know if this is a minus Josh Jacobs point or just probably a compliment towards how good the Bills' running defense is. I think it was phenomenal. Like you said, he got some action in the receiving game and looked explosive, looked good, did some good points. That's why he's not had a complete stinker on fantasy. He's not had a 0 or I guess minus points maybe. I don't know if Sleeper does minus points. I know in my other league they actually did one time, but I don't know if Sleeper do. But he got his receiving yardage. He looked good. I think the talent's, as you said, the talent's clearly there. So I think that's just a compliment to how good the Buffalo Bills' defense is. My next one, Bish, one that I think a lot of people might be shocked about, to be honest, casual fans of Minnesota like myself who enjoy watching them, have seen bits of him, obviously, when Dalvin Cook was injured at certain points over the last 2 or 3 years. He's been the man for a couple of years now as the replacement who's had some good games. Alexander Mattison, he's had 2 games now where I don't want to be rude to him, but he's not played well. He's not played well. He's not looking that explosive. That's power that he had with there. He's in a similar mold to Dalvin Cook, and maybe his time's passed. Sadly, sat on the sidelines of the Minnesota waiting for his chance, and it might have passed. I don't really know how much more to say because obviously the attack is around them wide receivers. around Justin Jefferson, around Kirk Cousins throwing the ball about, but there's always been room for that running back in Minnesota. Obviously, with Dalvin doing so well in fantasy over the last years and years, but it looks like Mattison's not the man. And I know I mentioned trade talks earlier or free agent signings. I think Minnesota will be in the free agent market more than any team in the whole in terms of the running backs, because Mattison's clearly not the guy, and I think that he generally might hinder them going forward and the playoff chances, because you need it. I think you need however the market is for running backs at the moment, which, as we know, isn't brilliant. There's not loads of money getting chucked around, but I think you still need a good running back, and I don't know if Alexander Mattison is that Bish. Might be. We're only 2 weeks in, but
yeah, I agree with you. I think for me, he's a complimentary back. He's not your main back. Is that the second back who comes in? Sort of, he works well in that number 2 role, sort of that Robin to the Batman sort of thing in terms of Dalvin Cook, and then he comes in and it's just not worked, has it, so far 2 weeks in, and it's a shame for them, because although Kirk Cousins, the sat Norton in Jefferson does what he does, and we've seen little sparks of Jordan Addison and KJ Osborne and TJ Hawkinson racking up a couple of touchdowns this week. But yeah, it's probably the piece of that offense that is missing. And yeah, can they go about correcting it really and finding someone who fits that role? It's tough, like you said out there. Jonathan Taylor still knocking about, isn't he? He's he's not going to be cheap though. That's the thing. And again, it's that situation where, are they in a position where they think they're a Super Bowl contender? Because that's the only way I feel someone like a Vikings, like a Giants, who we talked about, would take a chance on splashing out on a running back. So yeah, we'll see how that goes. I'm not optimistic, if I'm honest, but it is a hole that they need to fill somehow.
Yeah, and Bish, who's your final flop of the week?
My final flop. There's a bit of a Bengals theme going on here. You can see I had high aspirations for this team at the start of the season, and it's Ja'Marr Chase. 2 weeks in, it's a wide receiver, as we've talked about. I think he went second in our draft, just behind Justin Jefferson. And as we said, you're expecting big numbers from your first round picks. They're the sort of spine of your team, and he's turned up, I think, two performances under 7 points so far in our half PPR format. And it's an interesting one because he's getting the target share. First week he had 29% target share. This week just gone, he had 20%. He actually almost had a touchdown, just got it, couldn't get it in the end zone. Nicely thrown ball, just contested and couldn't get it. So he's definitely getting in terms of targets. It's just not clicking. We spoke about T. Higgins last. We speak about Chase this week and next week. They turn it around. Well, in fantasy, not in real life, because obviously they're playing the Rams. But but yeah, so yeah, it's Ja'Marr Chase. Yeah, as I said, your number 1 wide receiver. You're going to be wanting a bit more from him at the minute. Do you think that can change, Joe?
I think it's a Joe Burrow question more than anything for me. I think Ja'Marr. We know how good Ja'Marr Chase is. He's not got injuries. He's explosive as ever. I think looking at some of the highlights, he's still there. I think Joe Burrow's just off at the moment. He's been paid big, and I think Ja'Marr Chase owners in fantasy will be hoping that that leg issue for Joe clears up quick and clears up fast, because otherwise Ja'Marr could be in for a wide receiver, 2 wide receiver, even a flex. He's doing flex numbers right now, and unless something majorly changes, because he's not the touchdown scoring wide receiver, is he? Obviously, as we know, as we've seen, that's T. Higgins. And obviously, you've got Joe Mixon there, who normally gets a few touchdowns and receiving yards around that area. So you need him in play, looking explosive, and Joe Burrow willing to give him time to get the separation. And if Joe Burrow's not willing, if Joe Burrow can't give him the time to get the separation, could be a long season for Jamar Chase owners.
Breaking news as well, just a sleeper update. Joe Burrow's status for next Monday night's game with the Rams. Long week for him. They play on Monday night, but there's reports coming out that obviously it's definitely a decision to make. I think it'd be.
Wow.
I'm not sure. Yeah, I'm not sure whether he misses the game, but obviously it's something that they've got to think about because he is the franchise, isn't he? He is the long term. So you don't want to 2 weeks into a season break him down, but it's not on 2 times ticking.
Yeah, that's good update. I like that Bish sleeper update there. That could be a new addition.
Breaking news.
Hopefully we get more as we do with the show. If we get some more, keep your eye on it, Bish, and announce as you can. But yeah, Bish, it's your segment next. It's the Bish's breakout. So it's the top players of the week. You start us off, being it your segment.
Well, we had a good talk about this, and obviously my Rams. I don't want to be biased here on the show, but I think you've got to mention him. Puka Nacua, 2 weeks in. 15 receptions in this game, 10 last week. So that's 25 in 2 games, which is a record not seen since the 1980s.
Wow.
On 20 targets. And he's literally just Stafford just finding him everywhere. He's getting through an awful amount of work. And it's an unbelievable start to his NFL career and in his Rams career. So, he's definitely filling that role of Cooper Kupp, and long may it continue because he's definitely in my team this week.
Yeah, he's looked unbelievable, and I can't believe what I'm watching. A 5th rounder doing what he's doing, and I think there was some talk about him on in viral people who watched his college days, but I didn't to believe he was this good. And to be fair, I think I've seen a lot of Matt Stafford comments as well, saying Matt Stafford loves one wide receiver. Famously had Megatron, didn't he, back in the day? He made obviously Cooper Kupp. He's also had who's the lad at Detroit who got traded to Giants and then has fell off a cliff? Golladay, Kenny Golladay did phenomenal in a couple of years. Thank you, Bish. Again, I'm better than, but he's had. I think famously, he loves a wide receiver and he looks at him all the time. And obviously, Puka Nacua has been the man for Matthew Stafford. I wouldn't have guessed it in a million years, but fair play, and he's like I said, he deserves all of it because he's worked so hard and he's doing brilliant, isn't he?
He is. Long may it continue. The big question is, like you say there, is will it continue with Cooper Kupp back? But if Cooper Kupp comes back, we'll see. It's better to have too many options than not enough. So, yeah, we're looking forward to that offense. And yours, Joe? One of yours?
My one is Mike Evans. I think for the second week, Mike Evans is. I think I'll reiterate some of the sentiments I said about him last week. What a player, 1,000-yard receiver. Now, I think long may it continue. And I think looking at the stats, it will continue this year. 171 yards and a touchdown, 6 for 8. Just looks awesome, doesn't it? I think obviously Baker got a lot of hate. Baker does throw the ball. Again, throws probably too many interceptions too. But he's older now, Baker. I think the talent were always there. His confidence is certainly there. And he's got 2, obviously, Chris Godwin and Mike Evans, who we're talking about, that are superstar wide receivers, just to give him that bit of help in probably figuring out some of his worst times. They probably let him be a bit more risque, make some risks, and they'll cover it up for him, and it certainly has. Mike Evans, 2 brilliant weeks. They look awesome. He looks awesome. Not much more to say, to be honest. Just he's in my fantasy team, so I'm hoping it doesn't change. But I can't see it. Watching what I watched, a lot of the books, it looked fluid. It didn't look forced. Mike Evans is just who Mike Evans is, and I think he got a lot of hate in the off season, and he's proving the haters wrong.
I like it. Yeah, I was steering away from books in fantasy, but I'm all in on them now. I've traded for Godwin. I've got him in. I'm liking what I'm seeing from the Bucks offense, and yeah, I'm hoping Baker can go back to those Browns days where he took them to the playoffs, and look forward to seeing how they continue this season.
Yeah, who's your second Bish breakout?
My second one is Sam Howell, the Commanders quarterback. I've sort of been impressed with him. They went down, I think 21-3 they were trailing to the Broncos, and he's steered them back 299 yards, 2 touchdowns. And it's a new offense with Eric Bieniemy there in charge, sort of trying to bring that sort of style from the Chiefs, just the play calling and what they do there. And they've got a great defense that, they've had that last year. I don't think much was expected of them this year, to be honest. I actually, one of my future bets, I got on them at 6.5 wins this year, and they're already up to 2. So I'm quietly confident. I liked them last year. See how they go. Sam Howell, he seems to be just showing that sort of not being flustered. Being down 18 points and coming back and nailing that. I think it's a big win for the team and big win for him.
Yeah, can't put it better, Bish. I think, like you said, I'll just reiterate what you said. Every time, last couple of years, every time I watched the Commanders, or obviously the Washington team, as they've had a few names, haven't they, recently? But every time I watch them, they look awesome. Scary Terry. They've had Antonio Gibson in there, running back at tight. They've had the team flows well. The defense has always been sneakily very good. They've just never had a quarter. I don't think for the last 3-4 years they've had any quarterback that can truly take them deep into a playoff run. Obviously, a bit of fixed magic in there. They've had a couple, haven't they? And I don't think any of them have just quite been good enough. Taylor Heineke had a good couple of runs, didn't he? But hopefully, it looks like Sam Howell might be the guy. And I think because the team is secretly good, I don't think he actually has to be that outstanding to really show off the quality of player they've got. They've got Curtis Samuel there at like 4th choice wide receiver. He'd be 2 or 3 on most of the teams. He's there getting his targets, doing a few gadget plays. They've got a very strong side, and Jahan Dotson, obviously, they've got a very good side. And I think, Sam Howell just has to steer that and make sure they get to the playoffs. And I think 6.5 is crazy, and good on you and getting on it, because I think they're a playoff team. Might be being silly. I think they're a playoff team.
I think they're a sneaky shout. They just get under the radar of obviously the Eagles and the Cowboys. That's the only thing. They've got to play them. That's 4 games in the year. But yeah, I think they're a sneaky shout for one of those wild cards.
Yeah. My next one is T. Higgins. I don't know. He's obviously he made our fantasy flops list last week, didn't he? So I owe him some credit. He went 8 for 12, 2 touchdowns, 89 yards. Obviously, we've also given a lot of stick to Joe Burrow and that offense, the Bengals offense, a lot today. And the one shining light was T. Higgins. Again, reiterate, touchdown threat every time they get in that red zone. He's a tall body, he's a wide body, and he's just a tough matchup. And I think he'll carry it, whether he keeps on getting the yardage. I think he'll carry on getting them touchdowns all year long. And as a T. Higgins owner, I think you're steady. You got him as a wide receiver too. I don't think he'd be a top wide receiver in draft form anyway. I think you are looking at him to be your second wide receiver, and I think that's what he'll steadily be confidently all year long, because he's got that touchdown upside, and he also gets the yard, obviously 89 yards as well, so he gets the yardage to match. And if you look even further than that, even if it's not Joe Burrow looked for him 12 times, aimed to throw at him 12 times, which means that he's got trust in T. Higgins, and if things might be going wrong with his leg, he's looking for a safe option. And clearly, by these numbers I've read out to you, it's his safe option. And as these injuries carry on, you probably have a couple of good weeks with T. Higgins, I think.
Yeah, good shout. Yeah, like you said, it's we seem to be saying the same thing, but it's that fitness of Joe Burrow, isn't it? So, yeah. But like you said, it was a flop last week, so we've got to praise him this week. He had a very good week.
Bish, have you got one more, or is that the?
Yeah, I only had two this.
All good. We'll go. Yeah, all good. We'll go to the Punt project. So these are the players who are on the waiver wire, who are on our waiver wire, and leagues we might be in that we're looking to add on and just be there, probably as a sub or maybe even as a starter, depending on injuries. I'll go mine one. And I sometimes look at the waiver wire as people who are going to finish the season strong, who may not be performing amazing now, but the signs there that he might be a strong performer come the playoffs, because for the last couple of years I've done horrendous in the playoffs. So I'm changing my tactics. I used to look now who's getting me points this week, next week, who can I put in? But I'm changing my waiver wire strategy and going, okay, it's go time. Who can I confidently play who's going to get me points in them playoffs? And I'm taking a risk here, but I'm actually going to go Jalen Hyatt of the New York Giants. I think they're looking for a wide receiver one. At the moment, it's Hodgkins, and I don't think he's a wide receiver one. They're dying for someone to come out. Hyatt's obviously a rookie, so they're not going to trust him straight away. They'll need to get that rapport with Daniel Jones. But the signs there. He obviously got a touchdown this weekend. And I think as that confidence, if he keeps on getting more touchdowns, that confidence from Daniel Jones continues, I think near the end of that season, when it's getting to crunch time, and they will be looking for playoffs, whether they get to that point or not is a different question, because there's definitely worrying signs, but I think their hopes are to be near them playoffs, and I think they'll need someone to step up and be that wide receiver one on the team for any chance of doing that. Saquon can't do it, and his injury, as you all slaughtered me when I drafted him, he's injury prone. He's Saquon, so I think they need someone to emerge. And for me, from what I watched, it could be Jalen Hyatt, the rookie at the New York Giants.
Nice, good pick. Yeah, he seems to be getting more involved. Obviously, he's the home run threat, isn't he? He showed that in pre-season, and he showed that the weekend just gone, the game just gone. So I think they'll work to try and get him more involved. And there's a lot of wide receivers there out there, but I don't think there's a clear number one. So like you said, it's up for grabs. So we'll see how he gets on with that. My first one is a running back. It's Zach Moss. So he's with Jonathan Taylor's situation. There wasn't really a running back there. He came in and he actually broke his arm in the preseason. Now this was his first week back. He played on 98% of the snaps. He was the only running back to take a carry, so he is his backfield. He had 18 carries for 88 yards, thrown in with a touchdown and 4 catches for 19 yards. And just an added one with this one, I do think if Anthony Richardson does miss any time, he's a perfect back for Gardner Minshew. And it's just going to propel him more, because you're not going to have to worry about Gardner Minshew running the ball. So anything goal line, it's Zach Moss all day long. Really. So yeah, it's probably not a high caliber, running back, but he's a running back that's been around. He knows his job, he knows his role, and he's built for plenty of usage. So, and he's going to get plenty of that if these stats are anything to go by this week. Actually, I had to look at this, and just looking at it in our league, he's actually been picked up in our league. So yeah. maybe I would have been looking at someone like that just to fill a couple of weeks for David Montgomery going down. But in most leagues out there, I believe he is available. So yeah, maybe one if you need a spot play for a couple of weeks, or one to stash on your bench, maybe pick him up.
Yeah, couldn't agree more. He was drafted to be a very good player, wasn't he? It's not quite worked out for him, but if no one else got a snap, it don't matter how good he is. He'll be getting points in fantasy. Yeah. And fantasy is sometimes different because sometimes you're not always looking about who's the best player, who looks good. There's some brilliant players that aren't brilliant in fantasy. It don't matter for Zach Moss. If there's only one running back, that is what you look for. As I mentioned at the very start of the show, you look for your workhorse running back who's going to get most of the plays, and that's what I tried to draft. And if Zach Moss has emerged as one for a couple of weeks, get him snapped up ASAP before your league mates do. My next one is I think he was considered a risky play or a no play, but I think I'm going to start getting him in my team. Is Josh Reynolds of the Detroit Lions? He's had a couple of good. He's had 2 good weeks. 4 for 7. He's the big play. He's got 2 touchdowns and 5 for 6 this week. He's been playing. He's been playing really well. Obviously, I think the confidence is coming from Detroit's offense. Just looks very good. It looks elite. There's obviously Amon-Ra St. Brown, but what makes Amon-Ra different for people who don't know loads in depth about American football is that he plays in the slot. So that means he gets all the short yardage. They look for him for short. So Amon-Ra's not having these massive plays deep. Josh Reynolds is the man that they're going to. But because Amon-Ra's so good in the slot, that's opening up all these go balls for someone of Josh Reynolds' ability, who's one of the fastest players in the league, to go and get them catches. And that's what he's been doing. And I can't see it stopping carrying on with how good the running backs are and how good Amon-Ra is. All that space is going to be deep, and you don't need loads of targets. You don't need 12, 13, 14, 15 targets with this man. You'll need 2 or 3 catches, and you've got a good flex player. And I think it will carry on with just how good short yardage team Detroit are. There'll be 1 or 2 plays a week, and it looks like Josh Reynolds is that man who's going to receive them go routes, which just means go run as fast as you can, because all the spaces. All the spaces behind, and I think, Josh Reynolds is someone who I'm going to be picking up throughout all my leagues. I don't know about you, Bish.
Yeah, no, it's a great option there. Just like you said, it's a high-powered offense in it. The scoring points. Jared Goff seems to be like the second coming. He's just like, he's confident. He's got a coach who believes in him, and he's just pinging it everywhere. So I think he went on a really long streak of without an interception. I think he threw one this week, but he's confident. He's throwing it. I think also as well, Amon-Ra spent a bit of time on the sidelines. I'm not sure. I don't think it's anything too serious, but I think that's where also as soon as he went out, Reynolds seemed to be the target. So yeah, that's another good option there. And my second one is another wide receiver as well. It's a wide receiver in his second year now with the Texans. Nico Collins. He's a big body wide receiver. I liked him coming out of the draft, and one that I've kept an eye on. And it seems to be like CJ Stroud is liking him as his number 1 target. He had a good week 1, and then he's just set a career best week 2. He's 7 receptions, 146 yards, and a touchdown. And in week 1, he had getting a lot of volume, and the Texans, these last 2 weeks have been playing from behind. So CJ Stroud is going to be throwing the ball, and with a rookie quarterback, if he's found a wide receiver that he likes and trusts, that's where the ball's going to be going. So that's one there. I believe is a good pickup, and one to look for on the waiver wire.
Yeah, brilliant. I think with them young, with young wide receivers in the hole, if they're projecting more and more targets, it's always a good play, and it's normally a better play at the end of the season because we're both going to end up in the playoffs, and that's where the money's made at the end of the day, Bish, innit? Me and you sat in that final together, you with Nico Collins, me with Josh Reynolds, and let's see who see who has the best one in our flex spot. We'll finish off, Bish. Yeah, I think it's going to be me though, Bish. I'm quietly, I'm loudly. I'm not quietly, I'm loudly confident. But as we called the punt, we always do our new segment, the punters. We always pick a best kick of the week, and mine's Jake Moody. He's got 14 points 2 weeks in a row now. It's from the San Francisco 49ers. Their offense is just crazy good. Christian McCaffrey is the 2019 Carolina Panthers Christian McCaffrey I've heard 50 times over the last couple of days. He's unbelievable. He's playing and the whole team's looking good. I can jump all the time. But yeah, it just means he's going to get loads of points, loads of extra points, and they're against New York Giants next week, who we're seeing that defense just looks atrocious at the moment. Something has to change, but I don't think it's going to change against the 49ers. And that means he's just going to have that many kicks that even if they're all extra points, he's going to end up on enough to salvage you a good fantasy score against another kicker who might not do good. Kickers are up and down, aren't they? You can never really tell, but I think this is one kicker who you can confidently say pick up if he's available, and he'll get you some guaranteed points.
Yes, very good pick. And mine, I'm going with a kicker from the Cowboys, Brandon Aubrey. Kicked 5 field goals this week. The Cowboys dominated the Jets really, but it was field goals where they got it done. He kicked a 55-yard field goal as well, which is obviously a long one. A big kick there. And just a bit of background on him. He's actually a soccer player. Is that for whatever reason that career didn't happen? He went to the USFL as a kicker, and now he's found his way kicking in the NFL. So that's a pretty good story. That from one sport to he's changed sport, and he's found himself in one of the high powered, one of the teams looking really good this year in the NFL, and he's kicking goals for fun. So he's going over the crossbar instead of under it this time. So yeah, good luck to him.
Brilliant. Yeah, what a pick. Yeah, Bish, I think we've covered most things there, but what are you looking forward to week 3? What sort of stuff's on your mind? And what you're excited to see going into the next fantasy week?
Week 3 is going to be fun because I'm playing tag. It's a big week. It is a big week. I'm just having a look. I think tag might be becoming a cropper this week. He might have a loss this week. So yeah, that's going to be a big one. Tag's team. A bit like I said, I've got some issues with my running back, Montgomery out. So I'll have to see what's that looking like. And I've also been speaking, putting the feelers out there. I'm in the trade market. I'm always busy. So I've been on the phone, putting the messages out there, seeing what's going on. So yeah, I'm looking forward to it. Another week. See if I can keep that 100% record and try and get close to your points totals, because you seem to be absolutely flying.
Yeah, I've got to thank Jake for that. Devonta Smith, I wasn't too convinced when I drafted him, and he's been a revelation for me. He's just consistently playing well. He's doing better than AJ Brown's visibly on the pitch, getting annoyed that I don't know if it's purely because of that, but Devonta's getting the touches and he's not. So thanks Jake for convincing me to get Devonta Smith. And Saquon's out for me this week. Similar issue to you. I've got James Cook. Then again, we'll have the same probably conversation about who needs to be put in my flex spot. But I think it might be probably Christian Watson coming back from injury. Might give him a go. But we'll see. But yeah, James Cook, I'm pretty confident he'll be a brilliant running back too. And then Michael Thomas, we'll see tonight. Obviously, this will go out Tuesday, so people watching will know how he did. But yeah, I'm excited to watch. Hopefully, Michael Thomas just plays amazing and he'll be a confident flex spot as well. But I guess we'll see. We'll see on that one. But yeah, Bish, enjoyed this one. Anything left to say, or are we happy?
No, I think that's it. I'd just like to say, if you're finding anything useful, subscribe. There'll be another one out later on in the week with a betting and sort of another possible fantasy recap. And just in the comments, let's hear your waiver pickups. Who are you recommending to pick up in the league? So yeah, we're looking forward to this one. This will always be a fantasy update after the weekend. So we'll keep it going, see how the league's going throughout the year, and as you said, hopefully. Have we lost you?
Oh, I'm back.
Are you back?
I'm back.
You're back.
It's been a good episode, Bish. Yeah, I missed that last 5 seconds, but I'm sure it was brilliant. But yeah, thank you, and yeah, see you Thursday, Bish. I think maybe a double show. We'll see what we're thinking.
Yeah.
Brilliant.
See you then.